Everyone thinks the world ends with one loud moment, a flash in the sky, a warning across the airwaves, a voice telling you to run. But endings rarely arrive like that. They arrive quietly. They leak into your days. A sudden shift in the weather, a new machine humming beside your home, a strange sign in the sky that you explain away because you want to stay sane. You feel it under your skin. Something is changing. Something is tightening around the world you know. You try to keep living as if nothing is happening, but part of you knows the age you grew up in is fading. It is not just you. The Hopi said this would happen. The Hopi did not speak in years or centuries. They spoke in worlds. They believed the world ends not when the sky falls, but when human beings lose their way, when greed becomes normal, when noise covers the sound of the soul, when lies become truth, and truth becomes a threat. According to them, we are living in the fourth world. It will end. A fifth world will rise. And before that transition, 9 signs would appear. They said 8 have already come. Only 1 remains. Before we talk about the signs, we must know the people who carried them. The Hopi live in northeastern Arizona, on 3 ancient mesas carved by wind and time. Their villages have stood for centuries. Some say they are among the oldest continuously occupied settlements in North America. Their traditions are not written in modern books. They breathe through song, ceremony, and stones carved long before this nation existed. The Hopi call themselves the peaceful ones because their purpose has never been domination or conquest. Their purpose is balance. Their teachings say every world ends the same way. First comes pride, then disconnection, then destruction. Only the ones who kept the ancient covenant survive and walk into the next world. Hopi stories describe several worlds before this one. One drowned in water, another burned by fire, another collapsed by chaos. The survivors followed spiritual beings called kachinas into safe places until the storms quieted. When they emerged again, they carried instructions. Live simply, walk in balance with the land, honor the Creator, keep the ceremonies that connect your people to the sacred. If you fail, the world fails with you. This covenant was carved into stone tablets, guarded by clans across generations. These tablets record migrations, teachings, and warnings. They also hint at a figure who would return at the end of the fourth world, the lost brother. The prophecy of the lost brother. The Hopi say that long ago, after a great destruction, their people were divided. One group stayed in the homeland. The other went east, carrying a piece of the sacred tablets. One day, that distant brother called Pahana would return with the missing tablet. His return would mark the final purification and the birth of the fifth world. But the Hopi were warned. Many pretenders would appear. Many would come claiming to be the lost brother. You will know the real one, they said, because his tablet will match yours perfectly. If he returns and finds the Hopi faithful, the world will pass through a cleansing and renew. If he returns and finds corruption, deceit, and spiritual decay, the cleansing will be absolute. When Europeans arrived, some Hopi wondered if this was Pahana. Pale skin, arrival from the east, strange religion, strange objects. But it did not take long to see the truth. The lost brother would bring peace. These newcomers brought domination. The lost brother would honor the covenant. These newcomers broke every agreement they made. The Hopi turned their faces away and waited for the real return. And now, in this era of collapse and confusion, the 9 signs rest before us. They were passed down through clans, remembered by elders, and spoken publicly by White Feather, a respected Hopi elder of the Bear Clan. He said when all 9 appear, the purification will begin. He said the fifth world would follow. The 9 warnings, you were never supposed to forget. White Feather described the 9 signs in the late 1950s. Some question details, some argue over interpretation, but none of that changes the pattern. These signs match events that shape the modern world. They speak of arrivals, machines, disasters, fallen stars, and spiritual decline. And most disturbing of all, the first 8 signs do not belong to the future. They belong to the past, our past. Let us walk through them one by one, slowly, carefully, because once you see them clearly, it becomes difficult to dismiss anything anymore. Sign 1. The Pale Strangers with the Fire of Thunder. The first sign says pale-skinned people will arrive in Hopi land. They will take the land. They will strike their enemies with thunder. To the Hopi, thunder was not a poetic symbol. It was the closest word they had to describe the sound of a firearm. Imagine a people who never saw gunpowder suddenly hearing a musket explode. Imagine the flash of fire leaping from a metal tube. To them, it was thunder you could hold. History records the arrival of the Spanish in the 1500s, followed by American expansion in the 1800s and 1900s. Native territory shrank from entire regions to small reservations. Entire nations were uprooted. Forced marches, broken treaties, government schools stripping identity from children. The Hopi saw all of it. They watched their sacred land fragment under new borders drawn by hands that did not know the shape of the land or its spirit. The first sign is not mystery, it is historical record. Sign 2. Moving wheels that carry voices across the land. The second sign speaks of wagons and wheels that carry voices. At first glance, this sounds vague until you remember the 19th century. Stagecoaches crossing the desert, carriages carrying letters, messages, orders, laws. Then later, automobiles with radios speaking news and music into the wind. The Hopi had never seen wheels like these, never seen villages arrive inside machines, never seen entire cultures move with such force and speed. What the Hopi witnessed was not just travel, it was the spread of a new world, a world that did not ask permission before planting itself into old soil. Sign 3. The beast like a buffalo, but with long horns. The third sign is strange, but direct. A beast resembling a buffalo, but with long horns will cover the land. White Feather said he personally witnessed this sign. That means this one had already been fulfilled by the mid-20th century. The beast is cattle, European cattle, millions of them. They replaced the bison herds that once shaped the plains. They brought ranching industries. They brought fenced land. They brought a new economy. With them came the destruction of ecosystems built around the bison for thousands of years. From the Hopi view, replacing the sacred buffalo was not just economic, it was spiritual. Something ancient was removed. Something foreign took its place. Sign 4. The long snakes of iron crossing the earth. The fourth sign describes iron snakes crossing the land. The image is perfect. The railroad, metal tracks stretching across deserts, mountains, and tribal territories. Locomotives that hiss steam, long bodies that twist across the horizon. Trains were not just transportation. They were the means by which armies, settlers, and industries penetrated native regions. They carried soldiers west. They carried laws. They carried power. Once the iron snakes crossed the land, nothing would ever return to how it was. Sign 5. The spider web that covers the world. The fifth sign says the land will be draped in a giant web. Early interpreters saw telegraph lines, then telephone lines, Then electrical grids. Today we see something much larger. The internet, data lines, satellites, a digital lattice wrapped around every nation. The Hopi warned about this, not because technology is evil, but because speed without spirit breaks the mind. When thoughts move faster than character, something inside a person collapses. We see this collapse every day. People drowning in information, but starving for meaning. A web is a connection, but it is also a trap. The Hopi saw both possibilities. Sign 6. Rivers of stone that reflect the sun. The sixth sign speaks of stone rivers that shine in the light and carry pictures. That is a perfect description of highways. Look at them from above. Long pale paths running across the land. Cars glittering in the sun. Heat rising like waves. Painted lines carrying symbols and directions. Traffic cameras recording images. Entire industries built on roads that never existed before the 20th century. The Hopi understood something deeper about these stone rivers. They make travel easier, but connection weaker. People no longer walk their land. They pass over it in metal shells, never touching the soil that supports their life. This disconnection is not technological, it is spiritual. Sign 7. The sea turns black and life dies. The seventh sign is one of the darkest. The Hopi said the seas would turn black and living things within them would die. For ancient desert people, who rarely saw oceans, this was a chilling image. They were describing something they had no physical frame of reference for. Yet look at the last century. Oil spills staining coastlines. Tankers rupturing. Millions of gallons of crude spreading across the surface like a black skin. Birds drenched, fish suffocating. Entire ecosystems collapsing because of one broken pipe or one careless captain. Think of the Torrey Canyon spill in 1967, the Amoco Cadiz spill in 1978, the Exxon Valdez in 1989, and the Deepwater Horizon disaster in 2010. Each time, the sea turned black. Each time, life died in numbers too large for the human mind to accept. The Hopi saw this as a moral wound, not just an environmental one. When you poison the water that feeds the world, you are no longer in balance. You are no longer keeping the covenant. You are inviting the end of a world. There is another layer to this sign. The sea turning black is not just oil, it is the symbolic death of purity. It is the point where humanity stops seeing the earth as a living being and starts seeing it as a storage tank. That shift is catastrophic. When you stop respecting the sea, you stop respecting yourself. And when you break the bond between human beings and the natural world, everything else breaks with it. Sign 8. The children with long hair who come to learn the old ways. The eighth sign is far gentler, but no less meaningful. It says young people will come from distant nations, wearing long hair like the Hopi, seeking ancient knowledge. This sign appears strangely specific, until you look at the 1960s and 1970s, the counterculture movement. The hippies, young Americans, Europeans, and countless others grew out their hair, turned away from industrial life, and sought wisdom from indigenous nations. They visited reservations. They sat with shamans. They asked for ceremonies, teachings, visions. They returned to the earth. They rejected the world built on war, industry, and constant noise. To the Hopi, this was not random rebellion. It was a signal. They said these long-haired youth would be a sign that humanity was trying one last time to remember what it had forgotten. These young seekers were not perfect. Many were lost. Many were wounded. But they were searching for spirit in a world that offered none. That alone mattered. The prophecy pointed to a moment when the human heart would attempt to repair the bond between soul and soil. A moment of return. A moment of remembering. There is a deeper meaning here. The Hopi believed that the youth returning to ancient wisdom was a warning that the world was entering its final stage. People do not search for truth when life is comfortable. They search when something is dying. The surge of spiritual hunger among the young was not a trend. It was a sign that humanity sensed a change coming. Sign 9. The dwelling in the sky that falls and appears as a blue star. Now we reach the 9th sign, the most debated, the most feared, the one that completes the sequence. The Hopi said a dwelling place in the sky will fall to the earth, appearing as a blue star. After this, the final purification begins. Some call this the blue star Kachina. Others call it the blue spirit. The image is vivid. A structure falling from the heavens, a burst of blue light, a signal that the fourth world has reached its final breath. Many point to the 1979 crash of Skylab, the first United States space station, which fell out of orbit and scattered debris across the Indian Ocean and Western Australia. Skylab was indeed a dwelling in the sky. It was human habitation beyond the Earth. It burned in the atmosphere, and many described its fragments glowing blue and white as they streaked across the sky. Others point to the Russian space station Mir, which fell in 2001, also burning in brilliant blue light as its pieces entered the atmosphere. Some look at satellites breaking apart, leaving streaks of blue, white, and pale fire over cities in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. To the Hopi, something built by humans, placed in the heavens, and falling again would be a sign that the unnatural age was ending. But there is another interpretation, a more spiritual one. Some Hopi elders said the blue star is not only a physical object, it is a celestial sign, a change in the sky visible to all nations at once. A blue celestial body, a comet, a star, a shining presence that signals the start of purification. The Hopi said when this blue star appears, the Kachina will dance in the plaza for the last time. When that dance ends, the purification begins. Others interpret the sign as symbolic of the collapse of artificial life. A dwelling in the sky is anything humanity builds far above its natural place. That can be satellites, space stations, digital towers, even the illusions created by global communication. When something created by pride falls, and it falls publicly, the world witnesses the beginning of correction. Do we know which version is correct? No, but we know the 9th sign is the only one we cannot clearly place in the past without debate. Every other sign aligns with actual events. This one stands in a gray zone, a warning suspended between history and prophecy, a final signal waiting for its moment. The purification after the 9th sign. The Hopi said that once the blue star appears, the world will begin its cleansing. They called it the Great Purification, not a punishment, not revenge, a correction, a restoring of balance after centuries of imbalance. They warned that the world would shake, fires would rise, waters would move, disease would spread, nations would fall, systems would collapse under the weight of their own corruption. The Hopi did not say this lightly. They said it with the sober calm of people who survived earlier world endings. They said, purification is not the destruction of creation. It is the removal of everything that betrays creation. But the Hopi also said survivors would remain. They would be seeds for the fifth world. People who kept their hearts clean. People who stayed connected to spirit when the world lost its mind. People who remembered the old covenant even when surrounded by noise and fear. This is the part most outsiders ignore. The Hopi were not telling a story of doom. They were telling a story of renewal. A world dying is frightening, but a world being reborn is beautiful. The fifth world, they said, will be a world where humanity remembers its place, a world where people walk with the land instead of over it, a world where spirit guides purpose instead of greed, a world where the ancient teachings awaken again. Where we stand now. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Signs 1 through 6 belong to history books. Sign 7 belongs to the last century. Sign 8 unfolded in front of millions. Only the 9th sits at the edge of the present. Some say it has already happened with Skylab or Mirror. Some say it has not yet arrived. Others say the true blue star is yet to be seen by all nations at once. But the real question is not which interpretation is correct. The real question is why so many ancient signs now match our reality. The Hopi are not the only culture with such warnings. Ancient Hindus spoke of the Kali Yuga. Early Christians spoke of the last days. Jews spoke of birth pangs before renewal. The Maya spoke of world ages. The Egyptians spoke of cycles of rise and collapse. When so many cultures across continents speak the same pattern, you stop calling it coincidence. You start asking if the world we live in is reaching the end of its pattern. And if it is, then the 9th sign is not just a prophecy, it is a countdown. The Hopi never described the 5th world as a utopia. They described it as a return to sanity, a return to balance, a return to a way of living that honors the earth instead of draining it. They taught that after the 4th world collapses, the survivors will not be the most powerful or the most wealthy. The survivors will be the ones who stayed connected to truth when the world turned hollow. In the 5th world, humanity lives in a way that feels ancient and new at the same time. People remember their place within creation. They walk with the land instead of building over it. They listen to spirit instead of fear. They understand that technology without conscience destroys, but technology with humility can uplift. According to the Hopi, the 5th world will not appear all at once. It will rise slowly, like a new sun behind the ashes of the old. People will form communities that value soul over spectacle. Children will grow up knowing the earth as a living presence, not a resource. Water will regain its sacredness. Food will return to meaning instead of being a product wrapped in plastic. The Hopi said the 5th world is not simply a new phase, it is a new kind of human being. A human being who remembers cycles that repeat across civilizations. The Hopi are not alone in speaking about world ages. Their message aligns with patterns found in cultures separated by oceans and centuries. Ancient Hindus spoke of the yugas, each world age rising and declining as humanity lost or regained its connection to truth. The Kali Yuga, the age of darkness and confusion, was described as a time when greed would dominate, families would fracture, and society would forget the sacred. Many believe this is the age we live in now. Early Christians wrote about birth pangs before renewal. They described wars, famines, strange signs in the sky, and a great deception. They said the world would not end quietly. It would end with humanity facing its own spiritual negligence. Jewish mystics spoke of a time when the world would be corrected. This correction, called tikkun, would not be simple or gentle. It would break everything false before revealing what is real. The Maya described cycles of collapse and rebirth. The Egyptians left warnings about ages ruled by wisdom, followed by ages ruled by chaos. In every tradition, the message repeats: humanity forgets, the world sickens, collapse follows, a new world rises after cleansing. It is the same story told in different languages by different people across different ages. And when patterns repeat across civilizations that never met, you stop treating it as coincidence. You start treating it as a law. Why the 4th world feels like it is breaking. You do not need prophecy to feel the fracture in the air. You sense it every time you open the news. You sense it in storms that grow larger each year. You sense it in the noise of a society that feels more artificial by the week. The Hopi said the 4th world would end when humanity forgets the purpose of life, when people chase pleasure instead of meaning, when they value machines more than living beings. when they build towers but lose the ability to look inward. Look at where we stand now. People scroll for hours but cannot sit with their own thoughts. They drown in information but cannot find wisdom. They chase distraction because silence terrifies them. They break the land, poison the oceans, burn the air, and tell themselves it is progress. They convince themselves this world can continue without spirit, but it cannot. The Hopi warned that the fourth world collapses not because the planet is weak, but because humanity breaks its own foundation. When a society removes soul from life, the structure eventually gives out. There is something else, something deeper. The Hopi said the world becomes unstable when people lose the ability to see truth. Lies become normal. Falsehood becomes convenience. People choose comfortable illusions over uncomfortable reality. And once that happens, purification is no longer an option. It becomes a necessity. Most people think purification means disaster, fire, storms, collapse. But the Hopi saw purification as something far more intimate. They taught that the world must shake because human beings refuse to correct themselves. The shaking is mercy, not punishment. The shaking removes everything that blocks the soul. Purification is not just global, it is personal. You can feel it already. People around you are going through their own purifying storms. Careers collapsing because they were built on emptiness. Relationships ending because they were built on pretense. Old identities falling apart because they were built on lies. Purification strips away what cannot enter the fifth world. It removes illusions. It removes attachments. It removes everything that keeps you from remembering who you are. This is why so many people are waking up spiritually during a time when the world appears to be falling apart. The fourth world is breaking externally. People are breaking internally. Both collapses serve the same purpose. Breaking is not the end. Breaking is the clearing before renewal. The fifth world and the simulation. There is a modern interpretation the Hopi never spoke about directly, but aligns with their teachings. The idea that the world we live in may be a simulated reality, not a computer program, but a spiritual construct, a school, a test, a place where souls enter to learn, forget and remember through experience. If this world is a simulation, then the Hopi cycles may describe resets, moments when the simulation purifies itself, when corrupted code is removed, when the world resets not physically, but vibrationally. The fifth world would then be a higher level of the system, a stage where consciousness upgrades, a stage where souls operate with more awareness, a stage where the illusions of the fourth world no longer hold power. In this view, Pahana symbolizes the return of truth. The matching tablet symbolizes alignment. The purification symbolizes the removal of outdated programming. The fifth world symbolizes the next version of reality. Whether you see the world through spiritual eyes or simulated reality, the meaning is the same. Something old is breaking. Something new is approaching. We are living in a moment that feels like a crossroads, because it is a crossroads. The Hopi said humanity would reach a point where it must choose. One path leads to destruction. The other path leads to renewal. They said the world cannot choose for us. We must choose for ourselves. Look at the world. People feel lost. Institutions feel hollow. Technology grows faster than morality. Nature grows angrier each year. Humanity stands between the world it built and the world it abandoned. The Hopi said this moment would arrive. A moment when everything false would crack. A moment when the deception of modern life would expose itself. A moment when human beings would be forced to decide who they want to be. We are inside that moment now. The quiet return of the lost brother. People often imagine Pahana as a man who will walk into the Hopi mesas holding a stone tablet. But the Hopi said something deeper. They said Pahana represents a state of truth returning to humanity, a restoration of wisdom, a correction of imbalance, a revival of conscience. When Pahana returns, people who kept their hearts clean will recognize him. People who buried themselves in corruption will fear him. Some say Pahana is a spiritual awakening rising across the world. The sudden hunger for meaning, the urge to turn away from lies, the desire to reconnect with creation. If this is true, then Pahana has already begun to return, not as a person, but as a force, a remembering. Where does that leave us? The Hopi said the first 8 signs have passed. The 9th waits, and when it arrives, the purification will begin with full force. But here is the truth most people miss. You do not need to wait for a sign in the sky to know that the world is shifting. You feel it. You live inside it every day. The 4th world is breaking right now, and the world after this one, whatever form it takes, will belong to the ones who stayed awake. A world ends the moment human beings lose the ability to recognize truth. That is the real collapse. The slow decay of the inner life. The quiet erosion of character. The numbness that spreads when people stop listening to their own conscience. Look around. People feel more disconnected than ever. They stare into screens, but not into themselves. Their minds are loud, but their hearts are quiet. They have more comfort than any generation before them. Yet they feel a hollowness that comfort cannot fill. This is exactly what the Hopi warned about. A world that forgets spirit, forgets meaning, forgets its place in creation, eventually forgets how to survive. That forgetting is the true end of a world. Everything that follows is just the consequence. What you are witnessing right now is not only the decay of society, you are witnessing the collapse of an age. You are watching the 4th world unravel from the inside. And whether people admit it or not, they feel the unraveling too. Anxiety, restlessness, emptiness, a sense that something enormous is shifting. Humans do not feel this way when the world is stable. They feel this way when the ground beneath them is moving. When people talk about a new world, they imagine cities, landscapes, and physical transformation. But the Hopi never said the 5th world begins with buildings or borders. They said it begins with human beings. It begins when enough people stop living in fear and return to truth. It begins when a person chooses integrity over convenience, awareness over distraction, and humility over pride. This shift does not happen in governments. It does not happen in institutions. It happens in the heart of a single human being, one by one, quietly, without applause. The 5th world is the world that emerges after purification, the world you build after you shed the illusions that trapped you in the 4th. It is not a place you walk into, it is a consciousness you rise into. When the Hopi spoke of survivors becoming seeds, they did not mean biological survival alone. They meant people who carried wisdom, people who held their center steady when everything around them trembled, people who understood that the world collapses only when humans stop holding themselves accountable. These people carry the lineage of the next age. They carry the clarity needed to rebuild. You might believe purification is an external event, but if you look closely, you will notice it is already happening within you. Something in you has grown tired of noise, tired of empty conversations, tired of pretending, tired of living in a world that feels disconnected from anything sacred. That is not depression. That is your inner life rejecting the 4th world. You begin to notice the things that once distracted you no longer work. You sense the emptiness behind desires you once chased. You feel a pull towards silence, meaning, and authenticity. You might even feel the urge to let go of things that once defined you. Old habits, old identities, old relationships, old versions of yourself. This inner shedding is not coincidence. It is the purification process beginning at the personal level. The Hopi taught that the outside world mirrors the inside world. When humanity purifies internally, the planet purifies externally. The storms you see across the earth match the storms within hearts. The breaking of systems mirrors the breaking of lies within you. Purification is frightening only when you resist it. When you let it work through you, something remarkable happens. You remember who you were before the world confused you. The covenant the Hopi guarded for centuries was not a set of rules. It was a way of being. Live simply. Honor the land. Respect the invisible forces that sustain life. Carry humility. Maintain ceremony. Protect the sacred. Remember your connection to creation. These teachings are not exclusive to the Hopi. They are universal. Every ancient culture carried some version of them. The covenant is about alignment. When you live in alignment with truth, you do not fear purification. You recognize it as correction. When you live out of alignment, purification feels like punishment. The difference is not in the prophecy. The difference is in you. The Hopi said the world ends when humanity abandons this covenant. But they also said humanity can choose again. Choice is the pivot. Choice is the moment the world changes. The prophecy points to the risk of destruction, but it also points to the possibility of renewal. That duality is intentional. You are meant to feel the weight of the moment you are living in, and you are meant to feel the opportunity inside it too. The real meaning of Pahanasip's return. People imagine Pahana as a figure who will appear one day in robes, holding a sacred stone. But consider this. What if Pahana's return is symbolic? What if Pahana represents the return of truth, the return of clarity, the return of conscience? What if the missing tablet is not a physical object, but the missing part of humanity's awareness? When Pahana returns, the Hopi said he will test the hearts of the people. He will see who kept the teachings and who abandoned them. Look around. That test is already underway. People reveal who they are under pressure. Some cling to the illusions of the fourth world. Some begin to awaken. Some turn inward. Some return to humility. Some search for meaning in ancient teachings. Some begin to reconnect with the earth. This is not random. This is the sorting that happens before a new age. So where does that leave you? The Hopi never said the ninth sign would be understood easily. They said it would be seen by all. A blue star falling from the sky, a dwelling place collapsing, a moment the world witnesses together. Whether that sign has happened or is yet to come is not the point. You already live in the shadow of 8 fulfilled signs. You already live in the collapse of a world. You already feel the weight of transition pressing against your daily life. The ninth sign is not only a physical event, it is a psychological threshold. A moment when the world realizes the fourth world is done. A moment when denial breaks. A moment when truth stands without disguise. That moment is approaching, and when it arrives, people will react in 2 ways. Some will panic, some will awaken. The Hopi said the ones who awaken carry the seeds of the fifth world. Your role in the fifth world. This is the part no one talks about. Everyone wants to know what the ninth sign means. Everyone wants to know how the world ends. But the Hopi weren't trying to scare you. They were trying to prepare you. They wanted you to understand that a world ending is not the end of life. It is the end of a chapter, the end of an era built on forgetting, the rebirth of an era built on remembering. Your role in the fifth world is simple. Become someone who can carry wisdom. Become someone who can live with clarity when the world is clouded. Become someone who values truth more than comfort. Become someone whose heart does not collapse when systems collapse. Become someone who remembers what humanity lost. That is how you walk into the next world. If you feel called to ancient teachings, that is not accidental. If you feel a pull toward nature, that is not coincidence. If you feel that the modern world is losing its center, that is not fear, that is recognition. Your spirit is responding to changes that your mind cannot yet explain. The fifth world will not be built by governments. It will be built by souls. You stand in a moment that countless generations spoke about. A moment when an age ends. A moment when the veil drops. A moment when humanity must choose what it will become. The Hopi did not leave this prophecy to frighten you. They left it because they believed you would need it. They believed you would forget who you are. And they believed you would remember again. Before this video ends, there is one thing I want you to do. Not for me, for yourself. Leave a comment telling me which of the signs spoke to you the most. Not the one you found interesting. The one that reached something inside you. The one that made you recognize the world you live in a little differently. Your answer might show you where you stand in all of this. Because the truth is simple. You are living through the end of a world, and you are alive to witness the beginning of the next one.